On average, homeowners will save roughly $100 a month, a snip compared to the extra $1,500 a month that they've been paying extra from all of those rate rises. Joining us live now from WA is the Deputy Opposition Leader Sussan Ley. Sussan, thanks for your time this morning. So, look, the homeowners are the deserved winners with this cut. It is minor, but it is something. And as we heard from a Melbourne cafe owner this morning, there's still this dark mood around because it won't fix most of their problems.
Sadly, it won't, Pete. Good morning from the great state of Western Australia. I know that Australians are hurting everywhere and the damage is done. And this is the point. The damage is done. The average homeowner has paid $50,000 more since Labor came to government to pay off their mortgage. And after 3 years of Labor, what is the point of the Albanese government? What have they actually done? I'm always giving you the insolvency statistics, and while I always hope for better ones, they seem to be getting worse. 28,000 small businesses have gone to the wall. They haven't been replaced by new businesses. This is a small business recession to go with the household recession, and Australians just can't afford 3 more years of this Labor government.
So that's one part of the argument, and you mentioned household recession there. No official recession though. So the government has escaped that. There are wage increases, there's low unemployment, lower inflation as well. It's all tracking that way. So does it have a compelling narrative of its own, the Labor government?
People are talking about an early election, and what is the government going to spruik? That they've had 12 rate rises and 1 rate cut, and meanwhile the cost of living for average Australians continues to go up and up and up. So if you ask anyone, anywhere, your cafe owner is a good example, they're just not feeling better off, their customers are not feeling better off. When they go home, they face that anxious feeling of the pile of bills that just doesn't seem to go away, and all of the costs that just keep mounting up. So I come back to my main point, Pete. What has been the point of this Albanese government? What have they done for Australia, and how have they made anyone feel better off? Right. Everyone feels much worse off.
It seems as though that question, though, could be applied to the coalition, because I've mentioned this a few times today. News poll found this week that the majority of voters don't think the coalition could have done any better. So do you need to sharpen up your message, or do you need to come up with better policies of your own that will help productivity and folks on the front line?
I'm not going to comment on the polls. I never do, and they vary across the country. And
but the message
what we're doing is speaking. Well, I want to give you an example, Pete. I was in a major food manufacturer in New South Wales last week. They manufacture the ingredients that go in a lot of products in your pantry and in your freezer. Their energy bills have gone up $60 million, and they're buying energy minute by minute on the spot market. And that is a
$60 million.
Pretty horrendous situation. Yes, and that gets passed on. Obviously, they're a large manufacturer, but that's the increase they've faced. Now, that gets passed on to consumers. That's just one example of one of the businesses that I visited. I'm in Western Australia. I stood in a big, beautiful supermarket. There's a lot of independent supermarkets over here in the West. And when I was shown the proprietor's energy bill, it was eye-watering. So, the commentators can say what they will, but I know that average Australians are just experiencing this cost of living crisis and struggling with it.
Just elsewhere this morning, Sussan, before we go, you might have just heard from Tony Abbott there. He says that we should be sending peacekeepers to Ukraine. Would you be supportive of that?
Well, Tony was Prime Minister when MH17 was shot down by the Russians, and 38 people who called Australia home lost their lives, and I remember it well. Tony has always spoken clearly and with moral clarity on this issue. I'm not going to get ahead of the talks that are happening in Riyadh right now, and the US is leading that peace process. We should always stand up for an international rules-based order.
All right, but if you win government and Ukraine asks for help, would you provide it?
There's a few ifs in that question, Peter, and I'm not going to speculate at this point.
All right, I'm going to leave that. All right, Sussan, thank you for your time.
I'm not going to speculate.
We'll chat to you again soon.